Hello, everyone. Just a 5-minute warning. We'll be starting in 5 minutes. And if you haven't had a chance to register, please register and make sure you get your food ticket so you can get your lunch, okay? In about 5 minutes, you guys.
Degenerate the faithful with that
Hello, everyone. We're going to get started soon. If you could take a seat, please. Rob, if you could have a seat. Hey, Rob. Hi, y'all. Go ahead and have a seat. We're going to get started in a minute. Thank you. Hello. Hello, SEIU-UHW brothers and sisters, friends, and supporters. Hey. I'm glad y'all ready to get started. All right. We're so grateful that all of you have come out to support our nationwide campaign. We want to tell Kaiser Permanente that we are no longer going to stand by while its brand of corporate health care fails patients and workers. My name is Faye Eastman, and I'm a patient care technician at Oakland Kaiser. I'm so proud to have the opportunity to speak to you all today. Well, there's a lot of people today. Y'all came to turn out and turn up, huh? Okay, I like that. We want to show Kaiser that we mean business, and we will never, ever back down. Now, our efforts today and in the coming weeks as we head toward our unfair labor practice strike are very important to every one of us. We all have a personal story to share that motivates us and makes us getting Kaiser back on track so important. Now, ever since I was in about the 4th grade, I had to care for my mother who was sick. And since then, I knew then I wanted to be a healthcare worker. Now, I've been at Kaiser for 12 years. And thank you. And my most memorable experience happened about 2 years ago. I had a female patient that was near death, and her adult daughter came to the hospital to say goodbye to her mother. The daughter didn't have any siblings and arrived by herself. Now, I spent most of my time checking in on the patient and trying to console her daughter, who I could tell was pretty close to her mom. Now, after a while, her mother started like labor breathing, and it was her last breath. Her daughter had asked me, "Is she okay?" That was the hardest thing ever. I tried to keep the daughter's emotion in balance as well as mine, and to be there for the patient and the daughter. It meant so much to me because I know how it feels to lose a parent. I lost my mother, and I wanted the daughter to understand that she doesn't have to be alone in that moment. Now, this is just my story, and I'm sure you all have a similar story to share about your patients too. Now, that's what this fight is all about. Now, Kaiser Permanente is a nonprofit healthcare corporation that has abandoned its mission to serve communities in favor of earning massive profits and enriching top executives. While those executives and the corporation bank accounts thrive, Kaiser is raising prices for the patients, undermining quality health care, refusing to bargain in good faith, and attacking frontline workers like you and me, the people who made this company successful. We're the ones that did that. It's insulting and it's outrageous to hear what Kaiser is saying about us. I think most of us here have heard a story of Kaiser executive who makes more than $1 million a year, saying a Kaiser housekeeper in Los Angeles who's only paid $44,000. Apparently, they think that's too much. Now, this comes from a millionaire who is paid $44,000 each pay period and works for a CEO who is paid $44,000 a day. A day, y'all? $44,000? Yeah, that's what the CEO is paid. We all know what's true. It's not the people pushing papers in the boardroom who care for our patients and our families. Right. It's not the millionaire executives who make sure the hospital is clean and free of germs, who do the x-rays, who give patient respiratory and other therapies. who makes sure patients get the right medications on time, who prepares nutritious food to help the patients heal, who do hundreds of jobs and are the heart and soul of our facilities. It's us. Yes, it is us. Am I right? Am I right? Who take care of our patients and our families up in here? That's right. We are the people that do those things, and we deserve better from Kaiser. It's not right for Kaiser to fail to bargain in good faith while we fight to ensure Kaiser patients and workers are treated fairly. You all know the numbers just show how much Kaiser has lost its way. Here they are again. A CEO who got a $6 million raise to $16 million a year. Does that sound like a nonprofit company to you? At least 36 executives who get over $1 million a year. Does that sound like a nonprofit to you? $11 billion in profits over the past couple of years and over $5 billion in the first 6 months of this year alone. Does that sound like a nonprofit to you? That's what I'm saying. $37 billion. Let me say that again. $37 billion in reserves. Does that sound like a nonprofit to you? Very little care for low-income patients. Does that sound like a nonprofit? Now, we reject what Kaiser has become. Our fight for equality in healthcare and the good middle-class jobs America needs. It's time for Kaiser to get back on track and join us. Now, we're looking for 4 simple things. 1, restore a true worker management partnership. 2, ensure safe staffing and compassionate use of technology. 3, build the workforce of the future to deal with shortages of licensed staff. And 4, protect middle-class jobs with wages and benefits that can support our families. Sisters and brothers, Kaiser's not going to get back on track on its own. It's up to us. So let's make sure they hear us all the way up in those fancy executive suites. Are we united? Are we committed? Are we prepared to go on strike to stop Kaiser's unfair labor practices? Yeah. Are we ready? Are we ready? Are you ready? Then let's go show them what we're made of. Let's hear from another Kaiser worker and proud SEIU-UHW member. Please join me in welcoming Snodgrass.
Yeah. So when I first got the job at Kaiser, my dad was the first person I told. I called him on the phone, and through the phone I could hear in his voice how happy he was for me. That I finally got a good job, a good stable job. My name is Snodgrass, and I was born in Hayward, Kaiser. But Kaiser's been a part of my family's life way before that. When my dad, Bobby Ben Snodgrass, got a job in Kaiser, Oakland in the 70s, it was a huge moment for my family. It meant that we could stop having to move around all around the East Bay in some pretty not so great neighborhoods. It meant that my dad was able to buy a house big enough for all us kids to have our own room. For 30 years, my dad was a proud employee of Kaiser. So I followed in my dad's footsteps. And I've worked at Kaiser for 19 years in the pharmacy warehouse. And I thought I was going to be able to retire from there too. But about 1 to 2 years ago, after months and months of Kaiser telling us our jobs were safe and they were going to build us a new warehouse to work in, they came and they told us that they were closing our warehouse and they were outsourcing our jobs. I was pissed. I do not appreciate being lied to, especially from my employer. Between my dad and I, my family, we have over 50 years working for Kaiser, helping build it up. And now they want to cut us out. You know, Kaiser's going to tell us that they need to cut costs. But come on, they're throwing crazy money at a fancy new headquarters, sponsoring sports teams. But somehow we're the problem. You know, if this goes through, I'm going to be faced with some really tough decisions. Do I pack up my family and move out of state? Do I uproot my kids from their school, their friends, everything that they know? Or do I take another job with Kaiser and get a huge pay cut? It would be devastating for my family. It means after the mortgage is paid, the other essential bills, there's nothing left over. Nothing for vacations or activities for my kids. You know, it's almost funny. My dad came to Kaiser to make a better life for his family. But now if I stay with Kaiser, our lives are going to be worse. You know, my dad, he wouldn't recognize the Kaiser of today. It's not the same company he worked for. Kaiser's just become another corporation trying to make as much money as they can, however they can. If my dad were alive today and he could see what Kaiser has become, he'd be pissed off too. And he'd be standing here right next to me, supporting me and all of you. You know, just a few years ago, I would have said I've been proud to have my kids, his grandkids, follow in our footsteps and work for Kaiser. But now I don't think so. So I really hope Kaiser can find its way back and become the employer that it used to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you sharing your story with us all. Now I'm pleased to recognize on stage the handful of legislators who are joining us today. We have Senator Bob Wachowski, Senator Nancy Skinner, Assemblymember Ash Kalra, Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, and Assemblymember Rob Bonta. We will hear from two of them. First is the State Senator Nancy Skinner of Berkeley.
Good morning, East Bay. Happy Labor Day. I'm so proud of all of you for showing up today and for showing once again that those of us who care about working families and want to ensure that there's a middle class, not only in California but all across the country, are here and strong and telling Kaiser in particular, we want you to return back to your roots. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Richmond, and it was the Rosie the Riveter Festival. And there were 40 Rosies from across the country at that event. The youngest was 90. The oldest was 103. And they all worked in the shipyards. Now, in that day, people talked about Henry Kaiser. and how Henry Kaiser had a vision that he knew his workers had to be healthy and their families had to be supported for them to be able to do a good job. So Henry Kaiser set up healthcare, the Kaiser Healthcare Program. He also set up childcare, quality childcare for those working families. And he made sure they had other benefits. I'm afraid Henry Kaiser wouldn't recognize the Kaiser we have today. And that's too bad. And it's especially no good because 1 out of 4 or 5 Californians have Kaiser as their health care provider. And right here in District 9, close to 70% of the residents of my district, which is over 1 million residents, all rely on Kaiser. So what does that mean? We want the highest quality health care possible, and we know that the only way to have the highest quality health care possible is to have the happiest, most protected workers. We can't afford to have workers that go to work sick on the job. We can't afford to have workers that don't have themselves quality health care and don't have the appropriate paid leave for whatever condition is necessary. So we say to Kaiser, get back to that bargaining table, bargain in good faith, make sure all my constituents have the best health care possible, and make sure that the Kaiser workers are well protected, taken care of, and put first, just like the patients. That's what we have to say. So, Kaiser, go back to being the model you were, restore that model, worker management partnership, and we will all be with you, but that's what we ask today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Skinner. Now let's hear from Assemblymember Rob Bonta of Alameda.
Thank you. Good morning, brothers and sisters. Is labor in the house? Is labor in the house? Awesome. Yes, you are. And I'm proud to stand with you here today. My name is Rob Bonta. I'm honored to serve in the California State Assembly representing the great cities of Oakland and Alameda and San Leandro. I'm proud to stand with you today on Labor Day in support of justice and in support of the dignity and respect of all workers, workers here and workers everywhere. So I want to do a couple shout outs to start. I want to shout out my colleagues, Assembly members Wicks and Cara, Senators Wieckowski and Skinner, and all of the elected officials who are here standing in support and solidarity with our workers. Can you just stand up and raise your hand? Elected officials, if you stand with our workers, and we'll fight with them shoulder to shoulder. Thank you for your support. I also want to shout out President, fearless leader Dave Reagan for his tremendous leadership. Thank you. And I also want to shout out my friend, my brother, Doug Jones, for his support over the years, his friendship and partnership. And Contra Costa DA Diana Becton is here. I want to make sure I shout out her. Thank you for your progressive leadership. But most of all, I want to shout out you. I want to shout out our workers for being here, for fighting the fight, for standing up for opportunity and equity and justice, inclusion. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Thank you to our workers. So brothers and sisters, I stand with you today because labor is in my blood. My parents were farm worker organizers with the United Farm Workers of America. We lived in the headquarters of that movement in a beautiful place called La Paz, and my parents worked directly with Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta and Philip Vera Cruz and many other great leaders fighting that great fight for social justice. Later, both my parents were in the union that is now SEIU-UHW. They were public employees for the state. They worked for 50 years combined for the state in that union. And I myself, I'm a proud member of SEIU 10-1. a proud member of the SEIU family. So honored to be here and stand with you in support. And I know firsthand what a union means for a family, how labor and how a union can help a family achieve and live the middle class dream, how it can help a family have a living wage, have access to quality, affordable health care, retirement security, and fair and safe working conditions. And that's what brings us here together, to fight for our values. We know we can't sit back and wait, that we need to fight, but we also know that our power is in our collective strength, that together we can do anything, that together there's no fight we can't win. So, brothers and sisters, I have your back. I stand in solidarity with you today in support of our collective values. And let me ask you, are you ready to fight? Are you ready to win? Are you ready to fight? Are you ready to win? We will fight and we will win together. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Bonta. We're grateful for you and Senator Skinner championing the fight of Kaiser workers and patients in Sacramento. We appreciate your leadership. I also want to acknowledge all of our labor allies who are here today, including Labor Federation President Catherine Leibarger and Executive Treasurer Art Pulaski, for standing in solidarity with workers today. I also want to give a huge shout out to all the Bay Area labor councils in Alameda, Contra Costa, San Mateo, San Francisco for adopting this Labor Day event and organizing all of our brothers and sisters to stand with us. We'd also like to thank local officials from several Bay Area cities. Alameda Supervisor Richard Valle. Alameda Supervisor Nate Miley. Santa Clara Supervisor David Cortorse. Emeryville Mayor Ali Medina. Alameda Councilmember Jim Odie. Fremont Councilmember Raj Sawan. Fremont Councilmember Vinnie Bacon. Hayward Councilmember Aisha Wahab. Hayward Councilmember Francisco Zermano. Hayward Councilmember Sarah Labnan. Oakland Councilmember Sheng Thao. Oakland Councilmember Nikki Fortunato Boss. Contra Costa County District Attorney Diana Becton. El Cerrito Mayor Rochelle Pardue Okimoto. San Leandro Councilmember Deborah Cox. San Leandro Councilmember Victor Aguilar. San Pablo Councilmember Abel Pineda. De Anza Community College Trustee Patrick Ahrens. Alameda Unified School Board Gray Harris. And AC Transit Trustee Mark Williams. Now we return to our final speaker. Please welcome SEIU-UHW President Dave Reagan.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Happy Labor Day. So, a few minutes ago, Faye and Doug talked about what we are experiencing with Kaiser and the way that it's particularly affecting frontline caregivers at the largest healthcare system, the largest employer, the largest hospital system, the largest insurance company, the largest of anything you want to identify in the state of California in the healthcare system is represented by Kaiser Permanente. And unfortunately, part of why we're here today is if Kaiser does not change course, and if Kaiser does not abandon the tack and the behavior and the presumption to embrace what to all of those frontline caregivers is so different from what we've come to expect. This idea that Kaiser is just one among many corporate providers of health care failing patients. If that is not abandoned, if that is not changed, if that is not addressed, we are also going to have the largest strike in the United States since 1997 when the Teamsters went out on strike against UPS. And those of us in the labor community, and those of us, by the way, a shout out that the 83,000 frontline caregivers who are struggling today to get Kaiser off of this new mission around corporate health care, those include SEIU, OPEIU, shout out to OPEIU, and the engineers and scientists represented in IFPTE. I know they're here today with us. How did we get here? How did this iconic company, as Senator Skinner talked about, that created this whole family-friendly model of health care, how did we get to the point where in 2019 we are about to have the largest strike in 20 years in the entire country? What the hell happened? Well, you know, it's not complicated. Most things in this world are not complicated. And unfortunately, as we see workers all across America struggling to make ends meet, struggling to raise families, struggling to keep up with the rise in the cost of living, we see a company here, Kaiser, with unprecedented financial success. Faye outlined all of that. And unfortunately, the reason we are about to have the largest strike in large part is because Kaiser just thinks they can. Because it doesn't matter to them about the history of the company. It doesn't matter to them about how they got here. They just assume at this point in time that since they're the biggest everything in the healthcare system, that might makes right. That's where they're coming from. And so here we are today on Labor Day to get back to basics. And there's three things that I want to share with people. The first thing, and I appreciate Assemblymember Bonta's telling of just the tradition and the culture so many of us come out of, particularly in this state, and the legacy of the farm workers. There's also a very simple question inside of the labor movement that we all have to answer about at some point in our work life. And that is, which side are you on? Are you with the workers? Are you with the people? Are you with the organizers? Are you with the community? Are you with the caregivers? Or are you with the millionaires? That is the question in front of us today. Which side are we on? And I think everybody here, we answered that question when we got up this morning. And when we came from Santa Rosa, or we came from Hayward, or we came from Alameda, we know which side we're on. And Kaiser, you want to talk like you're on our side, but you walk like you're on the other side. And that ain't going to work. We can tell time, we can count, we know what is up, and you're talking one way and walking another way, and that's what this is about. Today, tomorrow, next week, and next month, if you don't come correct in the next 30 days with us. That's point number one. Point number two. This is not complicated. The numbers Faye went through are real. It is stunning. It is unbelievable how much money this company is making. And they only get money from one place, that is customers, patients, consumers, millions and millions of people who choose to use Kaiser Permanente in large part because of the legacy and the tradition and the emblematic nature of what they've been. And Kaiser has, in fact, lost their way, and they've forgotten who's in charge. You can go on and on. $1 billion for a new corporate headquarters building, please. $1 billion, $300 million to support an advertising program for the Warriors. $37 billion in profits, yet Kaiser tells us that the reason that they can't seem to come right with the workforce is they're concerned about the financial future of the company. You're talking one way and you're walking another way. Those two things don't square. Get your business fixed, Kaiser. We got 30 days before the largest strike in the history of the country is going to happen here. The third point I want to make, and this is really something to reflect on Labor Day, is all of us. As we go forward, people talk about, well, we don't need unions anymore. Everything's good out there. We all know better. Just look around. You see the tents. You see people leaving California, like Doug talked about, because they can't make their life work in this environment. The average caregiver among the 83,000 Kaiser employees makes $60,000 a year. $60,000 a year in California, in Los Angeles, in the Bay Area. This is a paycheck-to-paycheck workforce. Bernard Tyson, the CEO, makes $44,000 a day. You talk one way, you walk another way, Bernard. The problem with the future of this company is not that somebody is a social worker, somebody who's an EVS worker, somebody who's a lab scientist is making $60,000 a year. We need more $60,000 a year jobs in California, not less, and we need this workforce to help lift everybody up. So here, Kaiser Permanente, we are not going to lose our sense of outrage. We are not going to get diverted or confused because of all of the noise out there. You can do better. You have the ability to do better. The question is, do you want to do better? This is not about can we, this is not about should we, this is not about any of that. It's about, do you have the will to live up to the historical legacy that you have inherited? The governor of Texas once said that a presidential candidate who came from a very affluent background was born on third base and he thought he hit a triple. And I think about Kaiser the same way, and the people who are leading that company, who are stewards of what Henry Kaiser founded and created. You were born on third base and you thought you hit a triple, Bernard Tyson. You didn't hit a triple. You got there because of hundreds of thousands of people doing right by you, doing right by the rest of the executives, doing right by the medical groups. You didn't build this thing. You inherited this thing. And you are a custodian of this thing. And we are not going to lose our sense of outrage. We are not going to lose our sense of morality. We are going to be in this thing until we do right, until you do right, until you do right by everybody up and down the state of California. The final point I want to make, and the biggest folks to shout out today are the 75 frontline care workers who in a few minutes are going to participate in a time-honored tradition in this country known as civil disobedience. And we're going to do that because we're not trying to stop operations at Kaiser Permanente today. We're trying to make a point, and we are trying to make a moral point and an ethical point. What is going on here is wrong. What is going on here is gratuitous. There is no reason to put 83,000 families through what Doug and Faye and all of these folks are going through. This is a choice we make, and a choice which we can unmake in the next 30 days. And so in a few minutes, we're going to do what has been done over and over again in the American labor movement and is typically celebrated on this day, Labor Day. We are going to make a moral point. And we're going to make a moral point because we want to make sure that all of us are unified, not about hurting anybody, not about doing something to get away with it, but about standing up for something that is right, something that is just, and something that is necessary. That is the tradition that we're going to act on today. We are not going to lose our sense of outrage. And most importantly, sisters and brothers and friends and neighbors, we here today assert and declare to Kaiser and to everybody in the state of California, we know what side we are on. We are going to be on that side, and just like the farm workers and Cesar Chavez, just like the sit-down strikers in Flint, Michigan in the 1930s, and just like men and women who work for a living over and over and over again, enough is enough. We are on the right side, not just which side, but the right side, and we're going to demonstrate that. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. Let's go get busy. We are going to do this. We are going to continue to fight till we get on the right side of history. Thank you.
There we go. Look at us over there. Okay, y'all ready, huh? Thank you, Dave. Now that our speaking program has finished, I have a few announcements before we start on our march. We will follow the marshals onto Webster Street. They are the people wearing the bright yellow vests. They will guide us where to go, okay? So please follow their instructions. If you have an emergency, contact one of the marshals. The march will conclude with a civil disobedience, and dozens are going to block the intersection near the hospital. Then after the CD, we will come back to Mosswood Park for lunch. So if you didn't get a chance to register, make sure you register so you can get your ticket for lunch, okay? All right, you guys, you ready to hit the streets? Y'all ready? All right, let's go show Kaiser, y'all. Woo! Someone lost their identity.